Hello and welcome to our Voices in Montessori podcast, brought to you by the Green Spring Center for Lifelong Learning. I'm Tamara Sheasley Ballas, and in today's episode, we're revisiting Dr. Montessori's vision for adolescent communities. My guest today is Pat Ludick. Pat is in her 40th year of working in Montessori education and was one of the planners and contributors in the early Montessori adolescent movement in the 1980s. Pat holds an AMI diploma, a certification in special education, a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and a certification from John Carroll University in spiritual direction. She has consulted with both public and private Montessori elementary and adolescent programs, presented at countless conferences, conducted workshops, and has guided teachers many summers at the AMI Montessori Orientation to Adolescent Studies. Welcome, Pat. I am so excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. It's really both a challenge and a great pleasure to be here and just share, just our understanding of this wonderful, wonderful human being at the third plane of development. Yes.
Well, I tell you what, it is so important for people like you to be able to speak to the adolescent with that love and reverence and share that with the world, because so often our adolescents get written off and have a bad reputation when really their whole brain is restructuring.
Yes. Yes. I don't know, I fell in love with them at first sight. That's all I can say. At first I thought I would be working with the little ones, in the children's house and all. And then just quite by chance, there was an opening at the school. And I thought, I I want to do that. And I just sort of followed, the inner urge to serve. And I absolutely fell in love. So hopefully that will last forever.
Well, we're so grateful that you did, because you were instrumental in building this model that we use now for our adolescents. And I will share with our listeners that Pat was one of the people that inspired us to start the podcast, because we wanted to be able to have people that have this expertise, the elders in our Montessori community with all this wisdom, and really to share that with the world. So anyway, so we're going to dig in, but because I'll stop gushing. But, so let's start out by talking about Dr. Montessori's vision for the adolescents. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes, and it's going to be kind of going back in memory lane in a lot of ways. But as I was preparing for this, exactly what you're saying, this vision came back to me because I got out my trusty old book, and oh my gosh, it is just a mess and it's a treasure. But it looked through the appendices once again, and that was her vision. She was a scientist. And it's so clear she went about all of this work in that frame of mind, not trying to prove anything, but rather just saying, oh, the wonder of being human, the wonder of the continuum. And now the adolescent. Tamara, I just read that she was captivated by the adolescent as far back as the 1920s, because of her work in the first plane and knowing this other huge constructive plane was facing her, and and awe of our humanity and the way that the body, the mind, the heart, the soul comes to life again in a really tough space, but a very constructive and meaningful space. So anyway, I went back to all of this and I saw my underlines and I saw my question marks, and I'm not sure that I still don't have some of those.
Mhm.
And I also, looked at her statement, adolescence is a mystery. Whew. All right. So, to be able to embrace that with a sense of awe, but also with a sense of intrigue.
Mm.
See what that means. Let me see. Um, I think in even looking at this third plane of development and at the adolescent and at Dr. Montessori's work, we need to be very humble. Um, Human life in all of its complexity and wonder ought to keep us there.
Mm.
Because I'm thinking of that as I embrace my elder years, like, what is this? What's going on? And I think perhaps it's part of it is that the mystery, the humility of knowing we are here on this earth with a purpose. And we bring our gifts and we bring our desires and we bring our hurts and we come and we live as world citizens. And that's a developing norm that comes over everything. Um, yeah, I was thinking about, way back, which sounds like way back then. Now I sound like the grandma. I know I do. But, in the 80s, when we were beginning this work, I remember David Kahn calling us the experiment for the experiment. And I thought, no, what does that mean? It only added to the mystery of it all. But, the quest was to read Dr. Montessori's work, to be mindful of the four planes of human development, to, especially at the adolescent level, to be where you are planted to serve and to adapt and adjust and pull out the gold, pull out what is critical here, and then be ready to observe and to learn and to read and to converse. Um, it's a great conversation all the way around, and I think put in practice, it's pretty marvelous. I sat at Hudson Montessori just a couple of weeks ago, and they have a large group in a small house, and hardly enough for these big bodies and the chairs in the circle. But what a dynamic! To know there was elements of um, the beginning, the emerging of a little community. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But and the adults there in the circle, everyone coming together on behalf um, of growth and development morally, spiritually, intellectually, physically. Um, I don't know. I just sat, outside the circle and just thought, oh, what a privilege.
Mm.
What a privilege. Who will they be? Where will they go? What will they do? And then I have to tell you my other book that is so messy, awful messy, Education and Peace. I keep going between the two of them because
So from childhood to adolescence and then education and peace.
yes, because even in Education and Peace, she sees the adolescent as a person of promise, a great person of promise. And if we respond naturally to what is to be groomed within us as human beings, then we are going to have this world citizen that works for peace, no matter where she is, no matter where she is. So I think, whether you work in a little village school, whether you're in the inner city, whether you're on a farm, um, wherever you are, maybe the back room somewhere, um, you're doing the best work. This is so critical, not only for these young people, but also for the world. So I don't know, that just touches me deeply they're becoming members of a society. And Dr. Montessori calls this the sensitive period for social development. And that's why they're talking. That's why they're distracted. That's why they're looking for best friends. That's why they're able to reach out and feel what others are feeling. It is social development in the most curious way, but also so sensitive. Sensitive period, which is why they react and respond, in ways that will just just calm down, just kind of, that kind of response from the adult. So I don't know.
A quick question about that.
Yeah.
How do we support them as they're navigating this sensitive period, their social sensitive period? Because they are, their hormones are exploding in their bodies and their brains are reorganizing and they're they're very sensitive and they're also can be very they're in that time of little barbs at each other where they like to do those little digs, but then they're sensitive when it comes back. So how do we construct a classroom that supports them and supports really their highest and best self and their world citizenry, if that's a word, um, as they navigate these big challenges?
I think that brings me to something I think is critical in our work, and that is the formation of a just community. For it's within that community that you come to see who you are, who you can be, what are the glitches, where do I go off course, how do I forgive, how do I listen, what is my language. It's really huge. I often think of Larry Schaefer from Minnesota, because he was one of the early pioneers in all of this work. And he did remarkable work on the building of a little society. And it's within that that we come to accept each other as we are. And they can be best friends one minute and then the next. That is just the way it is. But um, I always think about the building of this little community, the necessity that they have distinct roles within it, a little job description of who they are, what they're responsible for, guidelines for behaviors. Don't rule out that need. They're longing for it, and they're going to kind of go the system until, oh, all right, that's what's being asked of me. No, you may not speak that way. It hurts. You don't want to hurt. I know you too well. You do not want to do that. So yes, the group makes up those guidelines and they keep going back to them too. It's not a one done deal at all. It's reflection, it's writing, it's managing some of the kind of conflicts that come in and what is the role of the adult, which we'll get to, but that is huge. I think too, there's some pieces that are incredibly important, which would be, this community seen as a circle of energy. And and that is the way I tell them that. I tell them that even when it looks like it's falling apart, because it will, it will, and you pull it back again, but you are incredible, every one of you. You each have a gift to bring to this community. So a lot of it is the very honest inspiration of the adult there, not scolding, not, but coming to the forefront with how are you good?
Mm.
How are you good? That's what they need to see. And they're searching through it, through all this, kind of disconnected behavior at time. And then what are your gifts? What do you bring? What do you bring to this time and place, to this community, to this school? And then how does that extend as you see yourself moving forward into the local community, the city, the town, the world? Um, it just seems to be that there's, I don't know, just a renewal over and over again, kindly and all, but yet something we need to attend to on a regular basis. Um, I think the community needs to have ritual. And that again helps with some of the things you're speaking about, Tamara, because, a ritual of forgiveness, um, a ritual of celebrating the gifts that are all here after we've just done a little presentation together for parents. Um, the the whole process of identifying with the natural world and the rituals that are a part of that, and that we are part of this natural world. Um, and then I think about also the ability to argue respectfully.
Mm.
And that has to happen. It can't be stuffed down. It has to happen. And there's where the adult needs to be able to facilitate, with a great deal of presence, but also gentleness. How do we forgive one another? How do we work through an argument? How can we come to some calm with both sides of all of this? I mean, it's part of life. Look at our world. It just is. We need to be able to do that. Another would be, I don't know, the ability to develop empathy. I think it's at adolescence where we see a lot of that happening. To be able to get inside another person and not only see things from a different perspective, but also the hurt. When you said that, it just went right through me. The ability to say those words softly and have them be accepted. And then I always think Larry used to say, they need the ability to end something and begin again. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's all of life, isn't it? Where one door closes and no matter what happened there, it's at peace. And then you begin again. How am I good? What are my gifts? How do I bring those to the world?
Okay, hold on, Pat. I have so many questions here, and I
All right.
have to decide which avenue I'm going to take here. But can you just give us a few examples? Because you're going over this. It's so beautiful. It's so it, it's exactly what we all want for ourselves, not just at adolescence, throughout our lives. But can you talk us through just a little bit about, give us an example of a ritual, give us an example of how you support them in connecting with nature, just briefly, so that because I know we have so many other things we want to cover today, but I think it would be helpful, especially we have some folks who are new in the adolescent community, and this is a new conversation so can you help us with a couple of those pieces?
I would be happy to. What comes to mind is the celebration of the solstice, because that brings both the natural environment together and also themselves as light. And so, you meet with a small group and think, how can we make this really evident in a material way? This whole idea of solstice. And what does that mean to all of us, when we're invited to be light to the world in a lot of ways? And it's amazing the way a small group of students can work on that ritual. There's the element of the candle, of course, the understanding of the natural world as the change comes about in the season. I think and then, the lighting of everyone's candle, and what do they bring to this world? And what do they bring to this community? It may sound redundant, but you need to keep doing these kinds of rituals over and over again. Um, I used to look for some of the rituals of the native peoples, and they're absolutely beautiful and do exactly that. They celebrate the life of the human as placed on this earth, and they also celebrate the connection with the natural world, and that the two are inseparable. We are part of all of this. We are not over and above. We are part of all of this. And and adolescents just, it's almost like you see them just drinking this in and understanding. Um, you go back to the other planes of development where they are celebrated. I'm thinking of I just had a little grandson go through a little birthday celebration in his uh, first plane of development. And what is done there? It is just celebrating as he walks around to this unique human being, and everyone's celebrating and just sitting in awe as he comes even more to an understanding of the self. So it's been all the way through all the lessons of cosmic education. And I think as practitioners, we need to find ways ritually to visit all of that. Here you were, here you are. How am I good? What are my gifts? What do I bring to the world? It's been in process all along. How do I celebrate that? And I think we do that beautifully at different times, like at graduations, when they give their profound speeches. But to me, more than even the giving it was the preparation that went into it, taking them on a retreat, helping them to see their goodness, not telling them they've got its valorization. What are those times when you knew you had something to bring to the community? It needs to come from then. But, retreat formats are beautiful times to celebrate the natural world. There's nothing like that. And around a campfire. Um, I'm thinking of other times. I'm thinking of when I would ready students for their parent conference. And that was a real ritual for me, because I want them very, very much to recognize, where the glitches are too, but in a way that is not scolding, but in a way is, I know you want to be this. I know, I see you. I understand who you are. I'm excited about who you are. Now, how can we fill this in? It looks like you've been having difficulty getting work pulled in on time. How about if we meet? How about if we meet, just for a few minutes after each day? And I will just coach. I'll just coach. And if you feel as if that's too much, you tell me. But I see all that's good about you. To me, that ritual of almost advisory conversation one-on-one is critical. It covers the physical, it covers the intellectual, it covers the emotional, the spiritual, the social, all of that when we conference with our young people. So I think that I've always felt when I've worked with new teachers, new practitioners, that the art of the conference is really a ritual in itself. And you do need to receive a lot of practice in the language that is used. I mean, there are times when, you've tried everything and you probably just want to say, why aren't you getting your work in? But you've got to believe the best and just say, I see you struggling with that. Can I be a coach to you? I won't do it for you. I won't, badger you, but let's see if we can set up and we'll just meet at regular times to see how it's going. So those are a few of the rituals, and maybe you wouldn't think of some of those as ritual, but they happen on a regular basis throughout the program, and we need to keep them pure and to keep them, I don't know, almost sacred in a way, because you're speaking with an incredible human being who is in the act of becoming during the hardest period, the hardest period. So I don't know. I think we need to do a lot of talking to ourselves as adults too before we even begin to take some of this on.
Hmm. Can you talk about that? Can you talk about the preparation for of the adult in this role? And then we can talk about the students' preparation for adult life because they need us to be role models.
Yes, they do. They do. And I think as we look at the role of the adult, important thing to remember is that you are part of the prepared environment. You may have the most gorgeous place in the world. You may have a funny little living room. I don't know. But you are part of it. And oh, are they watching you? Oh, are they interacting? Oh, are they looking for how do I do this calmly? Um, how do I express myself? What language do I use? So I think that the point that you're serving life, and that's again, there's got to be that element of humility about that. We don't know what is possible in each one of these young people, but we do know that they are given the gift of life and all of the wonder and beauty that surrounds it, and that they can use their gifts for others. And we need to observe, where do you see engagement? Where do you see a sudden interest? Oh my goodness, observation is not sitting down and writing things, not in a long. It's working side by side with them and mentally noting and then writing down later. Oh, so Susan mentioned all about how she loved baking those cookies, and even better, loved distributing them, taking them over, to the faculty, sharing with the rest of the faculty. All right, that's what she loves. She loves the baking. All right, I've got to find ways. I've got to find ways. I've got to. So you're a strong but a tender presence. I do want to speak again about the art of language. I have found that asking questions in a most respectful way is more important than telling them what to do or how to do it. Questions like, gosh, I see what you're doing. Um, I wonder, I wonder how you could go about getting the information that you need for this. I love the selection you've made in terms of, your work on medieval Europe. Where could we go? Where could we go? This is exciting. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Um, and things that would say, questions that would say, You seem to be perplexed. Is there any way I can help in that way? And again, you're earning trust. You're earning trust. I always think of wonder questions, just like I did with the idea of the Middle Ages. But I wonder what would happen if. So you just keep planting these seeds. They don't respond well to you telling them what to do. So that ought to inform you. There's expectations, but then how do we get there? That can be part of a communal conversation. And I think we need to do that periodically during the year when we're opening a new body of knowledge. What are some of the questions we want to ask regarding this? We're looking at the Renaissance. All right. What are some things? What are things that you wonder about? What did it look like then? How did people dress? What were the values of that time? What was the role of the hierarchy in the church with all of their robes and all of that? What was that all about? So again, if anything, as a facilitator, as a teacher, as a guide, I think we have to work hard on the art of questioning. I think that that's integral to the whole piece. I also believe that we need to have ongoing professional development. I mean, I've been doing this work a long time, but I would never, ever turn away from another person coming in and revisiting pieces and parts, or coming from the progressive field of education and sharing, this is what we're doing. We see so many adolescents with anxiety. Let's see, what can we do here? A psychologist coming in and speaking with the group of teachers. I think that one time I wrote all of these things down. I don't know. It's a funny thing, and I'll just read it to you. But I said, our role as guides, we're observers, we're guardians. Oh my gosh, just taking care. We are poets. We need to see the best in everything and the most mysterious in everything and be at peace with that. And write about it. I mean, I have journaled from the day I began working with young people, and I have them all lined up on the shelf behind me, and I just don't know if they'd be of any help to anybody else, but I just see the same repeating things over and over again. I think too, we need to be scientists. We need to know, as you alluded to earlier, Tamara, about what is going on in the brain, what is happening, and there's young people coming into our adolescence program who are still in the second plane. And we need to respect that and just watch for the signals. When are they coming forth? When are they? When are they perplexed? When you get that call from a mom who just says, I don't get it. He used to be so nice. Oh, and now we scold all the way, and being able to translate, let's look neurologically at what's going on here. This, who are they? They are the dearest. They still are. But this is all just coming out, and you're safe. You're safe. So they can say these things to you. And, I suppose that gives a sense of, too, as a guide, you need to be resilient. You do, because I don't know, you just, it's not all about you. And sometimes that's hard with some of the younger guides, and the oldies too, look, step back, step back. You're part of the prepared environment. Let's go with it. Be there. Be a model to them of how you work through some of the issues, because they're watching. They're watching. I think too, Dr. Montessori often spoke about we being the servant, of the child, of the adolescent. And that might be a little bit unnerving, it doesn't mean that you do everything for them. It means you serve their inner needs, whatever those might be. You have observed, you know, they need to write poetry. And we need to write it all about resilience. What do we do when we're hurt deeply by another person? You know, um, so you do serving in that need of, uh, or I should say, in that climate of what do they need right now? How can I do that? How can I bring that on my little platter and share it? And then, the other pieces, I think we need to be clear in what we expect. It doesn't mean that they're walking all over you or the rules that have been made, or we need to be very clear. You know, I did that not too long ago with a young person in an environment, and I knew the whole community had worked in getting rid of gum chewing. Somehow it got in just like a disease, and it needed to be a rule. And yet, this young eighth grader was busy going about it. And I just thought, I don't know if I should say anything. Yes, I should. I'm saying, do you know, I was here when there was a community meeting, and all of you really tackled this whole idea of gum chewing throughout the day and grace and courtesy and all. And he just went, oh my gosh, took the gum out. Took it. So, it's that subtle way of going about it without being, I don't know, without losing your patience with it all, but so much is just, they're numb to that until you can thoughtfully bring them forth. Um,
I just have to say, Pat, that I think that what you're talking about right now, that ability to see the student who is doing the thing that has just been agreed upon that we're not going to do, and not not to get activated as the adult who's watching this happen, and us to be able to keep the child and that adolescent and their goodness
yeah,
at, at the center of our thinking, and then to be able to come at it with that amount of love and respect and reverence, the way that we would want to be spoken to if we forgot or did not forget and just decided to do something anyway.
yes, yes,
I
yes.
think what you just shared is such an art form. And it's one of the gifts of being a Montessorian is that we get to build ourselves. And it doesn't just come out at work, it comes out in every part of our life that we get to build that skill. Because the way you just spoke is something that I've been working on building for years, and I'm still not there.
Absolutely, absolutely, because we're all been graced with the human condition too, which is we need to accept that, and sometimes I would think, oh my gosh, like, especially as I'm writing in my journal, I've been working on this for years. Come on.
Right? Can
But
I have it now?
no. um, but also to know that it is a life journey, and we do, little by little come upon it, and we need to forgive ourselves when indeed we've somehow put barriers in our way of growth. And I think that's good for the adolescent to see too. I can remember having to apologize, to say, I think I was a bit harsh with you. And I'm truly sorry. That wasn't my intent. And I'm not going to excuse myself, but I'm going to promise you that I will be much more patient the next time. I will do my very best. And I think, isn't that teaching them how to forgive the self, but also how to forgive others? So I know tomorrow, I think our Montessori training and observations have been incredibly important in our own development. And Montessori speaks about the development of the teacher, the development of the guide. I think there are times when, as a faculty, we do need to go to that humble place and and talk about some concrete changes that we want to make, that we share as an adult community. This is where I need to be. I saw um, the teacher Sally in such a beautiful state, listening to a little one who was crying and in tantrum form. And I just think, oh, could I ever be that patient? We need to affirm one another when we see these beautiful things happening. So often we're looking for all the glitches, or we notice the glitches. And I think we need to notice the goodness. I really do. But also we need professional development to do that. I'm thinking of that, especially in, I don't know, I say our day and age, but you know what? When I was back reading, both Education and Peace and the appendices, Dr. Montessori was doing this work throughout the world wars,
Mm.
you know, and things were falling apart. And which is why she says society is not showing these young people how to live, how to behave. We need to. We need to respond. We're a responsive model to what is going on. So somehow, when I was reading that, it gave me heart. I thought, it wasn't a perfect world then. It's not now by a long shot. Um, I'm so weary, I will just say to you, of the kind of language that is being used on the political stages and on billboards and on everything, because I think children are learning how to speak. They're learning how to make their needs known. And here you have these everything but profanity, up in front of them. Is that what we want? Um, so anyway, I got off on that, but I somehow it gave me some solace to know it certainly, technology was not as it is now, but she was dealing with a world that was at war and with people who were, in dire circumstances, both morally and socially.
I think
So
such an important point. And I will say, I think one of your gifts is you always are such a cheerleader. And I don't say that in a lightweight way, but for a cheerleader for everyone. Even when you and I have exchanged emails, you manage to hearten me and share the important work that we're doing. And not just adolescents need that. We can all be doing that for each other and sharing how important this work is and the good we see in each other. So thank you for that beautiful reminder and being such a beautiful role model for that for all of us.
yeah, I don't know. It's lovely for you to say that. I just know that I try to be an instrument of peace. And I think that is that's what the adolescent taught me. I'm not sure I was always that way, but through all of the rudiments and through all of the hard work and wondering, should I really continue here? Oh my gosh, I'm so tired, or whatever we say to each other. Um, I thought, you know what they've taught me? They have showed me how to be an instrument of peace, and I need to learn from them and through them, and it's ongoing. It truly is. So thank you for that, for even saying that. I don't know. I think Dr. Montessori does speak about they will form you. And
Well,
they
and the work forms us, and aren't we lucky that we have such purposeful work? We have only about 10 minutes left. The time goes so fast, and I want really about 25 hours more with you.
oh,
Just clear.
goodness.
We need a lot more of these. But can we talk about the essence of working as a community and how you build that for your students in a high functioning Montessori adolescent community?
Yes. Um, well, Dr. Montessori speaks about that it is a practice community in so many ways. The elementary has been that, but now it is, this is it. Within this one space, we are a little society. And a society has, by its very nature, different roles that need to be fulfilled in it. And in that way, where do your gifts and the roles that are here come together? Where do they do that? And that's, I mean, I would use the word discernment. And often that happens at the beginning of the year at a retreat time, whenever. Um, but it also can be an invitation because I don't know. Again, I'll go back to how am I good? Do you know? And you may have to relate something you observe to a student. Would you be interested in taking that on? Um, I really need someone to be in charge of hospitality. It's such a critical part of us when visitors come, and I saw you greet someone the other day, just as we were going into Carline, and you had the smile and all. Could we try that? Could we see what that's all about? There needs to be someone as a role in charge of finance. The microeconomy, the small business is an integral part of this community. And that's where, what does she call it? The school of experience, of social life. And work is part of that, work with the hands. And so I think one needs to introduce the microeconomy to these young people probably many times during the year, as those sales come, as whatever, who do you want to be known as? What I know at one school it's just called the Exchange, and it's a little building, and in it are all the tidbits that one learns and needs for a sale. But how do we need to interact with the public? um, I do recall this one student who, oh goodness, he's a physician now. He's just a wonderful fellow, but he was really into making money. And if we're going to make this jam and sell it, we're going to make big bucks on this, kind of thing. And it was such, all right, so you take that, and you work with it, and they begin to see, oh, there's all of this output that needs to be part of the preparation. Where are we going to get those funds? Oh, we need to write a grant. Oh, we need to, go to our head of school and say, can you lend us some seed money just to get going? And this young man, at first um, I don't know, you could see, is this really necessary? And then he began to see what a big business is all about. And that's where you have others come in who are running a business, a small business, adults coming in and let them see all of the parts and pieces that are a bit of it. That is a great community builder. It just is, where we're all in this together. It's before the beginning of the holiday season. People are buying gifts for their grandmothers, for their neighbors, for whatever. We're a part of all of that. So those collective endeavors in their own, and the nobility of work, whether you're in charge of finance, whether you are in charge of being sure all of the jars are sterilized and clean, and all of those pieces, but the moral work too of justice and honesty. I remember the same student coming in one day with a suit on. And I thought, wonder what he's up to. He said, I need to go to the bank. I just checked our account. They're off, by 5 cents. And I was just like, oh my gosh, just you just never know. And I thought, oh, all right, well, we'll arrange it. And we got somebody to take him down. He walked in, he spoke with them. The bank was so impressed, so impressed. Oh, are your students doing that, etc. So, there's that nobility of work, the selling of useful items, but there's this moral work of justice and honesty that we're all called to. Um, I hope that helps somehow. But I just feel that, you have the whole dynamic, discernment of gifts, but you need to know that these are recursive. It's not a one-shot deal where you give a lesson and no, 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 no. You, as a practitioner, need know how to frame it in different ways and yet respect where they are and what they're asking. So it keeps you on your toes. It does. It does.
And it's so complex.
Oh,
It's nuanced. It requires just an incredible depth of love and compassion and diligence and hard work.
it
It
does.
really is an incredible undertaking to generate a community. This is so different from, having a subject that's taught and you teach that subject 6 times a day
Right,
and the
right.
children, the adolescents cycle through and there's not that deep connection and really responsibility to the student and as to their spiritual being. And
I too, excuse me, I'm sorry.
oh, please.
I think too that, I spoke about a retreat. I spoke about these community building exercises, them being out in nature. You need to keep moving in all of those ways because that just cements, the rules that they have put together. I always say, what are you asking of one another? What are you asking of the guides? We're right there. And are they ever honest? I want you to forgive me when I make mistakes. I want you to be honest. I want you to really give some good lessons. And I mean, they let you know, they just do. And I look at that and say, oh my gosh, of course, of course, of course. And then to examine once again, where did we find some successes here? What do we need to work on? Let's go. Let's do it. A lot of that.
Hmm. Well, this has been so absolutely informative and wonderful. And I would love to have you come back and talk about program design and the importance of grace and courtesy. And there's so much more for us to talk about. Would you mind if we shared with the community the role of the guide sheet that you had that had all of it broken down?
I can get that to you.
That
Yes,
would be great. We will put that in the show notes for those of you who are interested in it. We will also link uh, from childhood to adolescence and education and peace, both of which you referred to, so that you can access those listeners if you are interested or would like to get more information.
going to be most happy. And I just feel humbled and honored to be able, to speak with you. And your questions are just right on, I think. And I don't know, it's combining the sublime, and with the practical, because we've got to have one down. We can't be pie in the sky and not know the strategies. So thank you for that. It's been a beautiful experience to prepare, and I will prepare for anything you ask me to do.
Well, thank you, Pat. It's been such a treat to finally get you on. I can't wait to have this one get dropped and really appreciate your wisdom and really all of the spirit you have poured into this work for so many decades. You've
Yeah,
helped shape the adolescent community as a whole and really helped give life and form to a model that needed its scaffolding.
It's right. There are a lot of people who have really given their life to it, and I'm grateful too of working with other adults that, as we would get together and ask the big questions of ourselves and of Dr. Montessori too. What did she mean? Oh my goodness, what did she mean? So,
And
but
she-
we have to do that. That's the way we grow. So thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you. We're so appreciative. And
Um,
I want to say thank you to our listeners. We appreciate you all spending time with us today. Please take a look at our show notes at greenspringcenter.org to view the notes from today and those links that we were talking about. And we invite you to subscribe to our podcast to hear the latest episodes and join in the conversation on Facebook and Instagram. As Dr. Montessori tells us, an education capable of saving humanity is no small undertaking, and we are in this together. The work you do is so important. We're here to help. Join us next time.